Okay, so we've done the first two parts. We created a little crappy article website that you can upload things to. They have a little bit of user roles and permissions and things like that. We did the purchasing of articles, and individual articles we can now purchase. So let's talk about subscriptions. And while we're at it, let's revert away from these changes because we're going to stick with using the price thing from Stripe. So there was one thing I remembered that we didn't do, and that was the Stripe ref. So when we get a session, let's go and take a look at the session, which I don't think we have anymore. That, and then let's grab the session. We can get some kind of reference to that purchase, and there's the payment intent. So we could use that for showing them the receipt and so on like that if we wanted to. So we could say the purchase.stripe.ref equals session dot payment intent. It's probably the easiest thing in there. There we go. So that'll save it. We could use that later in the to show them the receipt and so on like that. So let's take a look at, okay, we've got the purchase. We don't need to do anything more in there right now. On the website, let's go to the home page and home index. Don't need that stuff. Got that. We could do a little div and a class of row and a div class of column. Make two of those, and we could say see articles and subscribe. Right, is that right? Let's look at that. Yes, we got it. Oops. Maybe the easiest thing. Fix that. Fix that. Let's add another thing in here. Div of equals card. Oh my gosh, I can't type today at all. Card body. And we'll move that to inside. And we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, that's nice. And we'll even do a text center. Great. And we could do, what is it? I think in height 50. I can't remember if it works like that. No. 500? No, can't do it like that. Oh, we'll leave it for now. So we can link that. Href equals / articles. Holy cow, my typing is atrocious. But this, we're going to just have a subscribe button. So if we look on Stripe, build a subscription, do they have an example? Yeah, you kind of bring up and you can say, you know, one-time recurring payments. We can choose a plan. Subscribe, flat rate, monthly, system default. We don't need a phone number. So again, we can do all that and subscribe to that. So, you know, we could do some kind of express checkout like that. It's funny, it gets you into a kind of weirdo loop. Where we are, explore Stripe checkout. So, yeah, again, like with the purchasing, we can do subscriptions in two ways. We can do it using their complete step through. So we would create a product, and then again we create the checkout session, and we say it's a subscription. And so we do it you can do it in quite a similar way. Or you can do it kind of more in a custom code. I don't know, but that's the way that we're going to do it, or I'm going to do it. So that, again, what we need to do is, instead of, we're just going to have a subscribe button. And so, as we've learned from experience, we need to have a div with data turbo false. What happened there? Div. Oh no, that's fine. And what we're going to do is have a create subscription checkout path. And so we're just going to create subscription session, checkout session, and we're going to put that on the Stripe controller. Or maybe we could have a subscriptions controller. So, because, okay, let's make it a little more real worldy. And Rails G scaffold subscription. And we're going to create a subscription that has a paid until, the Stripe customer ref, the Stripe subscription ref, when it's going to be invoiced again, the user, and the status. So let's create that subscription model. And Rails DB migrate. Not going to use a lot of that, of course. And on the subscription controller, we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to create checkout session. And we'll do very similar kind of thing. We do a session, which is the Stripe checkout session. But this time, well, first of all, let's do the success URL again. We'll do a success URL just of this. I'm not going to bother to type it all in. And the cancel URL will go to the root. And we need to set a mode of subscription. And okay, we're going to do line items again. It's because, you know, we're doing essentially the same thing. And we're going to do a quantity of 1. And let's create a subscription. So let's go over to Stripe. And let's add a product. And we're going to call this site subscription. Support our site by getting a monthly subscription. And let's go to Unsplash, grab a subscription, see if they have any cool things there. I don't quite understand what that has to do with a subscription. Not sure what any of those have to do with a subscription really, but just for the sake of argument, monthly. There we go. Let's just download that. Put that on. We're going to do standard pricing. We'll do US dollars of, $10 a month. Why not? And I'm not going to put on the other currencies. We saw that that worked already. We're going to do recurring monthly. And that's about it. Save the product. Again, we can create the payment link, but what we need is that. And what we're going to do is just check that in here. And so we say a price is that. Hard coding it in. We could put it in the environment or something like that. This is our monthly subscription price. We could do it, put it anywhere. So we've got that. And then we do the same kind of thing. Redirect to session.url. And we need status of those three. And what is it? Allow other hosts to be true. So that pretty much should get us where we're going. And I don't know, create routes here. So we need to create subscription checkout session, which is going to go to subscriptions checkout session. And no. Let's refresh the page. Yeah, see, it didn't like that. I did something wrong there. Div, oh, this. I think that's wrong. Div, and then we end the column. I wonder why it keeps jiggling over like that. In my opinion, it should look like that. Oh, look at that. Okay. Anyway, subscribe. We should set those heights to be the same. 100. There we go. And that's pretty hideous button. So there we go. Now let's see what happens. There we go. It takes us to our monthly subscription. I didn't do the customer email. Let's just do that. Great, so that's all filled in. Now we're not going to click on this because I know what's going to happen. We don't need, we've seen that it works for this part, but how do we know what happens when we get a subscription? Because a subscription is a multi-step process with Stripe, and it's all done using callbacks. So let's take a look at webhooks. And so I've already created, I can delete this and just start all over again. So let's add an endpoint. And let's fill Stripe. .ngrok.io. And this will say events. And what we need, I've got that written over here in a list. And where's my list? We need to have checkout, session completed, and customer, subscription created, subscription deleted, and subscription updated. In my experience, that's pretty much all you need for the basics. If you are doing some other things, in ZonMaster we use a bunch of other hooks, but for the basics of what we're doing here, got that, and we can copy. They give us a whole bunch of nice code that works a little bit. And I probably don't even really need it, but we're going to create a webhook method. Let's paste that in. Let's get rid of all of this stuff. One thing I will call your attention to, this is all this Sinatra Gubbins. Okay, the endpoint secret, and so we're going to add that endpoint, and this is the secret. So here, when you're looking at your webhooks and you're inside your webhook, so if we go developers, webhooks, your webhook here, signing secret, it will show you what your secret is, and that's what you need to kind of or to decrypt the code that they're going to send you. And so what happens is that whenever an event will happen on your account, you're going to get this webhook will be called now. So, and that's pretty cool. Webhooks and being called is an absolute joy. I'm serious. Having events pushed to you, I think, is the way to go. So what we need to do, nope, there's something else. When we create a subscription, we need to know, again, kind of like what we do to the article, we need to know what subscription we're talking about. So subscription equals subscription, find or create by user, current user. And we'll set a status of pending. So we go and we look at subscription. Let's add it to the user. Now, you could create a subscription as soon as you create a user. And that's essentially what I'm doing. What I'm doing is whenever anybody clicks that button, it's going to create a subscription even if they don't go through with it, but it's going to be pending, so it doesn't really matter. Hopefully we'll be smart enough to check at some point. And then here's something that's slightly different. To be honest, I never checked whether you could do this or not when you're doing a purchase, but you can do something called client reference ID. And that's kind of like adding metadata in. Perhaps it's better. I never even thought about it until this moment that maybe you can do that as well. And I've been using Stripe for years. You could do that in a purchase. I don't do purchases that often. So client reference ID, we're just going to set it to the subscription ID. And so in the webhook, when we come back, we're simply going to, first thing we're going to get, we'd get a session. Sessions completed, and I am only interested in a session I'm not sure where that comes from. Event session, okay. If the session has a client reference ID. And if it does, we know we can find the subscription by the client reference ID. And what we can do is subscription update. And now we know we can get the Stripe customer ref from the session object. You'll see that in a second. And the Stripe subscription ref is also on there, session subscription. So those two IDs, now we know, because the session is a very fleeting thing, so it's going to come in, we're going to say the session's over, but the next thing it's going to say is, okay, that's interesting. I didn't mean source, I meant subscription. So I set the wrong event in here. Select events, star subscription. Customer subscription created, updated. I don't need this source. Don't need that. Don't need that. Just going to do session completed and blah, blah, blah. There we go. So what we're going to know then is what the Stripe references are, because in the future, we're not going to get this client reference ID. That's it. You only get it one time when the checkout session is completed. So at that time, it's the only time when we have all three pieces of information that we need to know. We have the client reference ID, which we know is our subscription ID, and then we have the Stripe customer reference, which pulls us back to the customer, and the Stripe subscription reference, which tells us what the ID of the subscription inside of Stripe is. Hope that's clear. So now we know. And because I screwed it up before, so we're going to get, we'll get that, and then we'll get a subscription created, and we know that this is the Stripe subscription that we're getting, not our subscription. And then we can get our subscription by finding it by the Stripe subscription ID. I hope that's clear. And then we can our subscription update, and we can set the status to be the subscription status, of course, and the paid until will be the time at subscription current period end, and that's it. We're good to go. And this thing, there we go. So now our subscription will be the latest, and we can do the same kind of thing. All of these will be the same. We can get the subscription. That's a very hard word to say so many times. And we're going to just set the status. It'll be deleted, and paid until will be current time in this case, and then updated, same kind of thing. We're only really cared about the status and the paid until. Don't need that. Thank you. So let's try it. What we should see on our side here is that we will get a call to webhook with, we'll get multiple calls to that webhook that will be sessions over, subscription created, updated, and so on. So let's try it. And processing. Oh boy. Oh dear. Hopeless. Made a bit of a mistake, didn't I? Update the details. The endpoint is not that. The endpoint, hopeless, is, let's do a Stripe webhook, just to make it easy. Update the endpoint, and let's set that in the roots. And that's going to be a post if I'm not mistaken. Post Stripe. Holy cow, Stripe webhook. To Stripe webhook. Okay, now let's try it again here. Subscribe. And I've typed that wrong. Need an end. Okay. Let's go back. Refresh. Let's kill that. Subscribe. See, that's 100% Copilot's fault. Go back. Subscribe. Alrighty. Okay, subscribe. We create the checkout session. You can see that it created the subscription when we hit create the checkout session. And now we're going to subscribe. And with any luck, we'll get a whole bunch of errors because I've done something wrong. Okay, that was me not turning off the authentication. And not doing a subscription success as well. 2 for 2. So we don't need to check the CSRF, so we can do a skip before action. So we don't need to check the CSRF, which is the cross-site reference, whatever it is, because this is coming from Stripe, and we're going to do a bunch of other things here. It's going to check the Stripe signature and so on and so forth. So we don't need to check that. And I never created a subscription success page, which would just create. You know, we're not going to use any of these. And while we're at it, subscriptions, that, yeah, let's just create a new file here. Success.html.erb, h1, thanks. You're subscribed. And let's call that, we've got purchase success, and let's just say subscription success, and we're going to send that to subscriptions success. Okay. Now we're still going to get, we've still got this issue of all these webhooks. So nice thing is we can go over to Stripe and we can look and see our webhooks events, sorry. And so a checkout session was completed and it failed. So let's just send that again. It's nice, actually, we can do this one at a time. So I'm going to resend. There we go. So line 62, what have I done? Oh, that's not the way you do. I copied that from that stupid Sinatra page. We just need to do a head. Head, okay. But the rest is fine. So we get this whopping big webhook, and it comes in, and what we do is we update the subscriptions. So we found the subscription with from the client reference ID of subscription of 1, and we updated it so we know the customer, and we can go and look in Stripe at the customer or the subscription, and it's all updated. So that's done. That's fine. Let's send it again because it it failed simply because of the head. Okay, so that's done. That one's great, succeeded. So let's go back to the other events and checkout session was completed. What was the time there? 8:57. Subscription updated. Nope. Subscription created. So let's try that. Resend. There we go. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's because I got myself, didn't I? It was Stripe subscription current period end and Stripe subscription. There we go. Let's just send it one more time. Resend. There we go. So now the subscription has been updated and it's paid until a month from now. And its status is incomplete because this has just been created. It hasn't been paid for. See, this is what I mean. It's a multi-step process. And so that one's done, and here it is. And then we have a subscription updated. And let's clear our log and send that one and see what typo I made. And there it is. And now the status has been set to active. So this person is now subscribed. If we go back to our site, we got sent to a success page. See, that's not totally true. How about we, in the header, let's put a green check mark if they're subscribed or something like that. Span, we can do a, where is it? Oops, not that. What the hell is that? Don't need that. Can't remember. There it is. And we can put a class equals button success. And we're going to do this if the current user .subscriptions.last.status equals active. I know that's lazy. And we'll just see if they got one. And there we go. Honking big check mark to show that they're subscribed. So now we could act on whether they're subscribed or not. I mean, of course, on the user, we could add a, is subscribed, or just, I guess, subscribed. And subscriptions active any. And on subscriptions, we can add a scope of active where the status is active. So I guess we can just say current user subscribed. And we should still get the check mark. There we go. So that pretty much takes us through the entire thing that I was going to do. That's quite long. I don't know if I'm going to do one video for this because this is like an hour and a half, I think. What I might do is 2 videos. But I hope this has helpful. I know that a lot of people were asking a lot about how to do Stripe. And as you can see, most of the waffling is actually nothing to do with Stripe. Stripe is only a few lines of code, very easy to do. And you push everything over to them and they handle it all. And a month from now, that user will get called again. Your webhook will get called with a Stripe subscription update, and the end date will be pushed out for another month. So yeah, it should be, it's totally, it's the the purpose of using a SaaS is to get all of that information and responsibility away from you, so it's all done. So we looked at how to create a Rails 7 application where you could upload some things to it. We looked at being able to have a purchase link, multiple ways of having a purchase link on each of those individual items, or we also looked at how to have a subscription. And of course, if the customer subscribed, you would then take away all of those buy now buttons and things like that. Again, hope you found it useful. Drop me a link, like, subscribe, bell notification. I think that's how it works. And we'll see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.